Hey, it's Nikachu, and Modern Horizons 2 has finally revealed the prophesized Merfolk God. The god that will take the classic Merfolk tribe and bring glory to the archetype. But before we get into it, we're going to thank our sponsor, FusionGamingOnline.com. Pre-order your Modern Horizons 2 boxes and collector boosters from Fusion Gaming Online. And you can support the channel and get yourself 5% off by using my coupon code Nikachu. For as long as I can remember, Wizards of the Coast has continuously given incredibly mediocre cards to the Merfolk archetype. Things like Kamena Speaker here, Merfolk Mistbinder there, while other archetypes, other tribes get super powerful, heavy-hitting staples to Modern. The only time Merfolk gets anything good is when it's good in someone else's deck, like the Horizon Lands Force of Negation Brazen Borrower. But Wizards of the Coast, they've finally done it. They've given Merfolk its own dedicated card at a power level worthy of being a modern staple to the Merfolk archetype. Our Merfolk God has arrived, introducing Svyelun, God of Sea and Sky, a double blue and 1 generic for a gigantic 3/4 creature, legendary Merfolk God. If you control 2 other Merfolk, Svyelun, God of Sea and Sky, has indestructible. Whenever Svyelun, God of Sea and Sky attacks, draw a card. And other Merfolk you control have Ward 1, which means if you target the other Merfolk with a spell or an ability, it gets countered unless you pay 1. This card is fantastic and is hands down the single most powerful Merfolk I have seen printed for the last 7 years, since Master of Waves was good. Let's start this off with perhaps the single most important stat on this card, and that is this creature's ass. This is a 3/4 creature. I have never seen such large stats on a creature at this low of a mana cost before. Why does having such a big butt matter so much for a Merfolk deck? Because our creatures generally are 2 toughness or worse, which means they die to anything. I play the creature, it dies to removal spell. I play the creature, it dies to removal spell. Well, now I play Svyelun, God of Sea and Sky. They play Lightning Bolt. She doesn't die. They play Stomp from Bone Crusher Giant. She doesn't die. They play Searing Blaze. She doesn't die. Valakut triggers? Keep it coming. Spatial Contortion? Anger the Gods? I'm still standing. Prismari Command, Kolaghan's Command, Plague Engineer? This creature can hold her own against the forces of the most popular removal spells in Modern. Gone are the days where I have to maneuver my Merfolk lords together in order to protect each other. Nah, I don't have to do that anymore. Just slam Svyelun and she's gonna take care of herself. 3/4 creature just by herself is amazing. And then if we put lords together, 1, 2, she can become a 4/5 creature, a 5/6 creature, attack for tons of damage, and is fantastic on defense. Now, I used to play with a card like Thassa, God of the Sea here and there, but the problem is you need to have devotion on the battlefield or this card is not blocking whatsoever. And if you're not blocking in Modern, you could be getting overrun. There is no time to be playing a card, tapping out for 3 mana, and you are doing nothing. We need to be blocking those Monastery Swift Spears. We can just stone block a Bloodbraid Elf. How about that? Amazing! Matter Reshaper, keep it coming. So just being a 3/4 creature by itself makes this card incredibly good on defense and on offense. But that's not all. Let's start with the ability when Svyelun, God of Sea and Sky attacks, draw a card. Sounds familiar. Where have we heard of that before? Attacks, and you draw a card. Oh yeah, Uro! Uro used to do that, didn't it? Now, there are other benefits to Uro. Yeah, gain life, get extra land drops. But because you got to attack, you had infinite gas. You just kept the cards coming. 2 for 1ing yourself with Force of Negation doesn't hurt so much when you're drawing a card every single turn. Am I right? Gone are the days of scrying every turn with Thassa. Gone are the days of grinding away with Smuggler's Copter. We are just purely drawing a card from here on out. And in my opinion, we need it. The format is so much more about card advantage, to the point where everyone has so many cards, it's just this big slugfest. When so many decks are taking advantage of light up the stage, of Wrenn and 6, grabbing extra land drops from the graveyard, grabbing Horizon lands, and killing creatures for free. Bone Crusher Giant, first you stomp this, then you put a 4/3 in play, with Lurrus entering the battlefield, bringing a creature back from the graveyard. You already started the game with basically 8 cards because of Lurrus being a companion, and you get an extra card from your graveyard too. What, are you kidding me? We need the card advantage. Our win percentage against Jund, it's slipping away. We need to bring it back. We need the card draw, a consistent flow of cards. And this card draw, it's basically going to be free because Svyelun, God of Sea and Sky, if she is not big enough for the board, then she will be indestructible when we bring our Merfolk out. If you control 2 or other Merfolk, Svyelun, God of the Sea and Sky has indestructible. Very often, Merfolk can stall the game with Merfolk Trickster, bounce things back to their hand with Harbinger the Tides, also interact, slow down our opponent's removal with Curse Catcher. But the problem is, all these creatures, they're just diddly little dorks and bears. They're sort of useless. What you need behind it is some power. Things like Lord of Atlantis, things like Meroridri. Turn those little creatures alive. Push and press on damage. But the problem in the modern format today is people are just targeting their removal, their abundance of removal, at the lords. So if I have 1 or 2 lords out, all they have to do is kill them, and then all I'm left are with these grizzly bears and like a small Merfolk of the Pearl Trident. But it's going to be a different dynamic now with Svyelun, God of Sea and Sky. Let me explain, because now all those dinky creatures, they make this one indestructible. So if you want to get to the Svyelun, you first have to kill all the other dinky creatures. But that's going to be difficult now, isn't it? Because Svyelun, God of Sea and Sky, says other Merfolk you control have Ward 1. So if you target them, you're going to have to pay the tax. You're going to have to pay 1 extra. And if you want to kill multiple on 1 turn, you might not have the mana. So in the end, what does Svyelun do for the Merfolk archetype? She can stabilize boards in the mid game. She can help on the attack. And if undisrupted, she will slowly bury our opponents in card advantage. Not to mention, this might be the very first time that Minamo, School at Water's Edge, has a significant strategic purpose in the Merfolk deck, because what we can do is we can attack with the Svyelun and then untap her to be on defense. And remember, when she's indestructible, I mean, you should have no fear in attacking. You just have to play around your opponent using any removal spells on your creatures to turn off her indestructible ability. But you can always vial more creatures in, you can always activate a Mutavault in order to turn the indestructibility on. And I have a feeling our opponent's hand is still going to be pretty clunky because of the Ward 1. Our opponent will have to be spending paying the tax, tapping out their mana, and not being able to shoot everything on the board at once. And because she's indestructible when you have a board out, that's fantastic. You don't have to worry about keeping so many Merfolk in your hand and play around a Supreme Verdict. Just play your creatures, make a big attack, let them Verdict. You still have Svyelun on the board, drawing cards, drawing more gas, redeploy your team, let them Verdict for days. Svyelun isn't going anywhere. Everyone loves a sushi restaurant, but every once in a while that restaurant bites back. At this moment, I don't know exactly what is the best build, what kind of colors I want to use. I found that the taxing effect by Curse Catcher itself, not really that good, very underwhelming. The taxing effect coming from Unsettled Mariner by itself, also very underwhelming, but combined, if you combine Unsettled Mariner and Curse Catcher at the same time, now you seriously are taxing your opponents. And then if we add Svyelun to the mix, perhaps the opponent won't have enough mana at all to target anything that we have on the board. And let me tell you, it's a funny deck, Merfolk, because if you can't kill the creatures, it will completely overrun you. Merfolk, stronger in numbers. This is easily going to be a 3 of in my next Merfolk build. And if it's so OP, I wouldn't mind bringing in the 4th, even though it's a legendary creature. Svyelun is an excellent addition to the Merfolk archetype, but where does she fall short? Well, one thing I find disappointing is that I do believe that she is not going to interact maybe meaningfully enough against decks that I'm already losing to. Things like, is it prowess? Things are flying in the air, they're very aggressive very early on in the game, and I don't think she can turn the corner early enough. Against aggressive creature combo decks, we still have no interaction in this domain, and we're going to have to really look to other colors to help us in this department. So our worst matchups, they're still pretty bad, but I think Svyelun is going to save us in matchups where we're losing ground and really push us over the top in all others. Well, that's my video for today. Shout out to Brad Nelson, who apparently had a heavy hand in designing this card. Has Svyelun, God of Sea and Sky, shown you the way? Are you going to play Merfolk now in Modern because of this? Let me know in the comment section below. Smash like for Modern Merfolk. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, or Wizards will design a Plague Master.